A psychopathic killer terrorizes a babysitter, then returns 7 years later to menace her again. We watch the 1979 thriller When a Stranger Calls. So sit back and relax, but don't answer the phone.
Good to have blood, ain't you?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Never come back again.
All out of bubblegum.
Gothic dance curse.
Racing call is coming from inside the house.
Hello, lovers of all things horror, and thank you for giving us a listen here on the brand new podcast, Slashers and Screamers, a podcast of the Slasher Sports Network. That's right, it's the other half of Slasher Sports brand, and I'm not talking about the sports part. Yeah, we got some baseball podcasts, and that's all well and good. That's not what we're here to talk about. No, sir. We're here to talk about the same reason that you're here to listen. Cheer on the Slashers, terrorize the Screamers. Before that, I want to thank Carl Casey at White Bat Audio for that amazing theme music. Now, let me introduce my panel of co-hosts. First, he once stood in line to get Michael Myers' autograph, and when they told him it was just a guy in a Michael Myers costume, he said, no, I'm pretty sure that's the real Michael Myers right there. He's Rick Sims. Ricky, good to see you again, my man.
What's up, man? Glad to be here, man. I'm excited.
All right, well, you better be excited because this was your movie, all right? We put this on a Twitter poll, and your movie won. So why did you pick this movie?
Well, I picked When a Stranger Calls because to me, it's beginning of the early 80s to 79, classic slasher genre. It's just a creepy movie, man. If people haven't seen it, it's a good movie. It definitely creeps you out for sure.
And if you haven't watched it already, I would suggest that you just pause the podcast, go check this flick out, When a Stranger Calls, 1979. Check that movie out, come back to us. So we don't want to spoil anything because this podcast is going to be full of spoilers. We don't want that. So, Rick, what's your favorite scary movie all time?
Oh, man, all time, probably to be the original Halloween, 1978.
Typical. So typical.
Actually, no, changed my mind. I would probably say Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984.
Still typical. Well, my favorite's Friday the 13th, Part 2, okay? It's a big difference. Sackhead Jason was so much scarier than the other hockey mask Jasons. Surely scarier than Pamela, so, because she was just a woman. That's all she was. Speaking of women, no, wait, let's get our other co-host up. James, my man. This guy, if you want to talk about mythological creatures, and I'm not talking about Cthulhu and Cerberus, no, I'm talking about Sasquatch and the White Thing. He is my big buddy, James Brown. JB, we meet again.
I am in here to talk about this movie, and that is all.
We don't dare bring up anything else.
Don't you dare talk to me about anything else but this movie.
James, what's your favorite scary movie?
I had to say either Army of Darkness or Dog Soldiers.
That's underrated. That's an awesome film.
Oh, shut up, Rick. Nobody's ever seen that movie.
Whatever. It came out 10 years old.
Gosh. Wait, are we talking about Army of Darkness? Or are we talking about...
No, Dog Soldiers.
I've
It's older
seen
than that. I think it's like 19 years old. My bad.
It's one of them werewolf pictures, Bill. Be classified under the werewolf picture.
You walk into Captain Video, look all the way to the left, and look for the shelf that says werewolf pictures.
It'll be in the W section.
And our final co-host, the fairest of us all. She does enjoy walks on the beach, but that's not where we're going. She loves a good home invasion flick. She is Casey Ripley. Casey, welcome.
Hi.
Hello. Well, you know what? This movie, it felt like it was right up your alley. All right, we talked time and time again about the home invasion flick. Okay,
My favorite.
It is your favorite, and I respect you for it. But this one, could it have been one of the earliest home invasion flicks?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure there was stuff before that, but I think this is one that people keep in mind as far as, big names in home invasion franchises.
Definitely mainstream. So what is your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, I'm so mad that Rick said A Nightmare on Elm Street because that is my very favorite.
Doesn't it suck to have something in common with Rick?
Whatever.
That's not exactly where I was going, but yeah, that's ultimately why I'm mad.
Well, that's where my mind went. So, you know what? After such an introduction, I can hardly wait to hear what I'm going to say next. But before we put some lipstick on this pig, Rick, we got a rundown to do, man. So what do we know about When a Stranger Calls? Give me the rundown.
Okay. So it came out on October 26, 1979. So there are obviously, an hour and 37 minutes. So it's pretty short. For horror movie standards, it's a pretty short film. And it was horror/mystery/thriller. Some of the taglines are a terrifying classic, fears the message, every babysitter's nightmare becomes real. It's filmed in LA, California from June 1978 to August 1978. This is the mind-blowing part for me. The budget was $1,500,000 estimated. It grossed over $21 million in the box office. It was some other different names it was called. In Norway, it was literally called Telephone Terror. In France, it was literally called Terreur sur la ligne, which means terror on the line. And that's some interesting stuff about it. I guess our listeners did not know, but now they do know.
You think you're funny dropping the French words in there, right? You think people are going to be impressed by that? Nobody's going to be impressed by that, Rick. Okay, it was a little bit impressive. I like it.
Here's what I'm impressed by. So I just did some math real quick on an inflation calculator, and $1.5 million in 1979 is actually $5.5 million today. So
what's 21 million though? How much is that?
Hold on, I can do that. Not in my head, but it is 76 million.
Man, just imagine you spend $5 million on a movie, you make 75 million. Pretty nice little cleanup. They made out like bandits.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, you know what? This has got a pretty interesting cast, and we're gonna sit on that for a little bit as things kind of unravel in the story. But watching this movie, especially the opening sequence, I can't help but think about all the great movies that begin with a babysitter or just a girl next door type sitting at home minding her dam, and somebody's just gonna come around and fuck it all up. So 79 kind of stands out of one of the early years of the slasher film uprising. But there might have been some prior to, but is When a Stranger Calls one of the first of its kind that hit mainstream, or is it what Casey said that it's probably just one that actually is what Casey said. But
yeah, I mean
there
was some other ones. I mean, there was Peeping Tom that Martin Scorsese did back in the 60s, which was extremely controversial for the time as well. There was obviously Halloween. So yeah, this did kind of spur off the movement of, home invasion type people spying on you, looking in windows type, horror films.
So the opening scene is just, it's one we've seen a few times. Young girl walking down a poorly lit street to some subtle, but, like an ominous tune. Like, has any film ever really just turned out where everyone stays alive that's begun this way? I can't think of anything. It never leads to anything good. Never walk down the street alone during dark hours. Friday the 13th Part 2 comes to mind. The little girl skipping in the mud puddles. So, but our lone walker here is, she's the star, or one of the stars, Carol Kane. Rick, I know you got something on Carol Kane.
Right, yeah, absolutely I do. So, some people know her from, she played Jill Johnson as the babysitter in the film, but a lot of people know her from The Princess Bride, that she played, Valerie, and she was the witch, in the hut when, they go in there, and she actually plays one of the witches. Then she was in Scrooged with Bill Murray. She was a Ghost of Christmas Past. And then she was also in Addams Family Values. She played the granny, the grandma.
She was a Ghost of Christmas Past? Why am I thinking that was Buster Poindexter?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was more rhetorical. I shouldn't expect an answer out of that. Why? Because I remember Buster Poindexter being in the movie, and he's looking back on Bill Murray's childhood. So Was that not the Ghost of Christmas Past?
I mean,
Screw it. We're not talking Christmas. We're not talking about Christmas movies here, Rick. Cut it out. All right. So I've got to be the first to say this though, like amongst this crowd. But is Carol Kane a stone cold fox in this movie or what?
Dude, yes.
Yes.
Oh, dude, absolutely, man.
What say you, James?
I have to give it 2 thumbs down.
James, you know what? You want to be different, and this ain't the way to go about it. Carol Kane is a hammer and a half, all right? But I don't know if you said this was filmed in 78. I don't know how old she was, but she's obviously playing a teenage babysitter here, right? So, but anyway, I'm now emotionally invested in this movie, having seen Carol Kane and everything, and, you know, knowing she'd hardly harm a fly, and I'm thinking, if anybody harms a hair on her head, so help me God, you know? But, you know, the movie wastes no time getting down to business. The parents leave the kids asleep, you know, upstairs, immediately Carol Kane's dialing, probably long distance, to her friend about, talking about Bobby, trying to set up a dick appointment before she's even confirmed the existence of kids upstairs.
Just for clarification, she was 26 in this film.
26. And playing a character who's probably, what, 17-ish?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 17, 18-ish, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, she gets a call saying to check on the children. She's like, fuck them kids. She doesn't budge off the couch, you know, and that's what blew my mind. I'm beginning to think she's there just to collect a paycheck.
Is that
Right.
what babysitting is? You're there to collect a paycheck.
Whoa, you know what? Maybe I've gotten too far into parenthood to,
I said
have that mindset.
babysitting.
Yeah, I've never babysat. I've literally never babysat.
But you're also there to check on the children, so, you know.
They specifically told her to leave the children alone because they were sleeping. That's all I'm saying. I haven't done a whole lot of babysitting in my life, but I'm just, you know, they're asleep. Let them sleep.
Well, you know, this movie reminded me though, like, just think about this. That loud ass, you know, phone ring had to wake those kids up. Just poke your head in once. But anyway, this reminded me why my cell phone is always on silent. You know, it's not on vibrate, not a low ringer. It's on silent. Like, these phone rings used to drive me up the fucking wall. Like, my mom would be out of the house. I'd be sleeping in. My grandma would call, and I'd lay there thinking she'd eventually hang up. Nope. 7,000 rings later. 3,000 Pomeranian barks later. And, like, I'm talking about, like, sets of 3. Those fucking barks, and I'm saying, like, fuck it. I get up. I answer the phone. My granny says, is your mama home? Well, hell no, she's not home. And she hits me with that Leslie Jordan, well, shit. What do I do with that? That's my
But fun fact about the phone ringing, this was actually, when I looked into the trivia on this movie, this was the thing that stood out to me the most. The director, Fred Walton, opted to make the phone ring louder each time in order to increase your anxiety because it becomes more agitating.
Well, it fucking worked.
It sure did. I was very nervous.
I tell you what agitated me.
what?
This whole picture.
You didn't like it?
As a whole,
I
you
have
didn't
no
like the
idea
movie?
what happened. I have no idea what was going on.
Okay,
First
now
I get a babysitter, then I get that one guy from Brother Where Art Thou, a close-up of him, and then he opens the door, and I'm like, what's going on?
It does feel like a whole different movie, right? But, you know, before we get there, though, let's build up to Pappy O'Daniel being in the doorway. So, you know, Jill Johnson, who was the character here, was Carol Kane, Sweet Caroline. She calls the police, you know, after getting all these rings from a stranger. She gets Sergeant Sacker, the one person less interested in doing his job than the babysitter who's calling him.
True story.
Anonymous caller? Has he threatened you? Is he using obscene language? Like, what if the obscene language was the deal breaker there? Like, well, nothing we can do. Not a big deal that someone picked a night where the grown-ups are gone and it's just a tiny lady and some sleeping children. Total coincidence. But wait, is he using obscene language? Yes. Well, that's where I draw the fucking line. Get me swat on the horn. Well, this guy had no inclination that, or not inclination, that's the wrong word. He had no, I guess, desire to get up off his ass. And spoiler alert, when Superfly comes in later, the 6'6" police officer, Sergeant Superfly, I can't remember his name. He comes in and he says, oh, we were a block away when the call came in. the whole fucking time they're a block away and they can't get anybody down to do a wellness check. That's lazy officiating, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, but you remember the part when, he seems pretty uninterested, and I think he just thought, well, hey, this is just a normal, kids playing pranks or kids trying to have fun. He was like, I'm not going to take it serious. And then, come to find out,
I was about to say, by the second or third time that she's calling, I would maybe think it was a little bit serious at least.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I love when...
go ahead, Casey.
I love his advice of, well, if he keeps calling, see if the people you're babysitting for have a whistle and blow the whistle into the phone. Like, what the fuck kind of advice is that?
I mean, it was the 70s, man.
The 70s where everybody's allowed to be murdered.
That's solid advice for any type of situation.
The 70s
James
for
told me I'm whistling in the phone. he hangs up immediately.
The 70s where I guess you've got a whistle on the key rack next to the door.
Yes.
But, my question is, why does it take Sweet Caroline 5 calls from this weirdo to even lock the doors and even move an inch toward the stairs to check on the kids?
Maybe I'm super paranoid, but as soon as the parents left, I would have had the door locked.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think somebody would automatically have all that already done.
And I watch a lot of home invasion movies, so maybe that's just me being paranoid anyway.
Well, you are paranoid, so is Rick.
But at the same time, though, the area they live in, maybe she doesn't think I don't have to lock the doors and lock the windows and all that for now. Maybe she has that sense of security saying, hey, I'm at this affluent house with this family, got their kids, I'm babysitting them, let me do that later.
I'm on a broke bitch door locking lifestyle. Like, I'm absolutely not just walking around with the door anyone can open.
Well, I figured James was going to bring this up, but when the shit really starts to hit the fan, why do we keep hearing the sound effect from, is it THX, James? Is that what you said?
Yes, from when the big dong at the first of every movie you ever went to when you were little in the movie theater.
And that happens throughout the movie when shit is really about to go down. And I can count maybe 4 times where it was almost like a dog whistle. It perks my ears up like, okay, so something's about to happen.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to get your attention.
Yeah, it did, but my attention was already through the roof, and so was my anxiety from the fucking phone rings. That alone just had me on edge.
Well, apparently it didn't have the same effect on James.
But, she calls Sergeant Sacker back up, and he finally decides to earn his paycheck and walks her through triangulating the call. So she's got to keep the caller on the line for at least a minute, okay? And she tells Sacker that she can't do it because the caller only stays on for a few seconds. The exact words that came out of his pig face was, well, that's the only way we can help you. There's no routine wellness check. There's no search of the home or surroundings. There's only walking this, I presume, teenage child through the one police tactic that's never worked in the history of movies, the call trace.
Right.
Has it ever worked?
Well, here it sure did. She kept him on the line for 1 minute and 52 seconds, by the way, after the previous phone calls of, 3 seconds apiece, probably. It just so happens this one he held on.
Yeah, it did work worked in Phone Booth with Ewan McGregor.
Phone Booth with Ewan McGregor. Why did I think that was Colin Farrell?
Colin Farrell, sorry.
Oh, Ricky.
But they did trace the call, so hey.
Yeah, that's true. I guess. They're 2 for 2,000, I guess. Right. Oh, well. Well, this is the one and only case, aside from Phone Booth, where the call trace actually worked. But, that's the only good news that comes out of this, though. She was able to keep the caller on the line, with some questions. Well done on her part. Yay. But, she asked some questions, whether she knew it or not, that would kind of keep the caller engaged. Questions that would ask him, that would get him maybe some satisfaction, playing into what maybe he likes, whether he wanted the lights down or back on, whether or not he can see her. Of course, we're able to track the call, but the bad news came with the now, I guess, iconic line from the movie. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. And when I tell you, I shit a chicken when they said that. I shit a fucking chicken, and I knew the shit was coming. I knew it was coming, and it never took away from the intensity of it.
I know watching it, the one thing that kind of threw me off and took me out of it just a little bit in that first 20-minute segment was that he's watching her. She finds out he's watching her and asks him all those questions about, like, do you want the lights on, all this stuff, like she's setting up for a cam girl show. Meanwhile, she says something about the cops, and he's like, oh, you called the cops? You are right there, not 15 feet away, watching her like a hawk. How do you not know she called the cops? She called them like 18 times.
Yeah, I didn't really catch that, though. I never.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't know, maybe it just got under my skin, but I was just like, he clearly knows she called the cops.
Well, I mean, she's so concentrated on, getting her OnlyFans up and running. So,
And aren't we all?
oh, of course. I mean, I guess, Rick's going to sell those feet pics, and, I'm just going to sell bald spot pics, but I don't know. It should get a pretty good pushback. But, when she started, okay, let's get to the end point of this scene, though. As crazy as this scene was, it got uber intense at the very end. Okay, she starts going up the stairs. The phone ring brings her back down. I don't know why she couldn't just go upstairs and check on the kids. I guess because if she did, there wouldn't be a movie, because she'd be dead.
And here's my thing, though, too, on that. Like, okay, was the only phone downstairs? There had to be another phone in the house. Come on.
Hey, buddy, this is 1979, okay? They're lucky to even have that phone. And they're lucky it's not a rotary phone. It might have been a rotary phone. Was it a rotary phone? Anybody catch that?
No, I think it was.
Attention.
Think it was that had the buttons.
Yeah, okay. Well, all I can tell you is when she came downstairs and they gave her the message that he's in the house, she starts messing with that lock, and the upstairs door started to open. Like, I couldn't tell you with a straight face that I wasn't as nervous as a cow with a buck-toothed calf. Okay? I was shaking. And when she opens that door and sees the face, I didn't even recognize it. But I thought he had that look on his face like, okay, this is the killer. There's two of them, one upstairs and one here. But no. But, I mean, that scene alone. Now, this feels like it's a movie within a movie, because once we meet the inspector, I guess he was an inspector at the time, right? He was, he was on the police force.
Yeah, he was like a private investigator.
Well, I think he became a private investigator after that, right? During this scene, during this specific scene, he was still with the force.
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
Right, because he goes back and talks to Superfly later and says, I'm going, you went into business for yourself or whatever it was. So, yeah, but after all that, we get nothing of the interaction. Like, no altercation, no takedown of the guy. We're just left to wonder what happened.
Oh, I didn't need any part of that, because when she opened the door, I had enough tension in my body to need to see a chiropractor every 10 minutes for the next year.
Was it not nuts?
When she opened the door and I saw a man there, I screamed.
Well, that piped in scream, I don't know if that was actually our beloved Carol Kane or a scream queen.
That was actually me.
Well, that was you. Okay, so you went back in time to I don't know. You were born in you were born in 2016. So
yeah, I recently turned 5. It was exciting. Big day for me.
James wasn't scared of shit, though. I can tell you that.
So did they catch the guy, or what happened there?
Yeah. Okay. So they definitely caught the guy
for sure.
Yeah, he's your guy. But
I thought Pappy O'Daniel was trying to figure out the whole time who the guy was.
No. What happened? See, we're going to get there, but no, what happened was he escaped. So you fast forward 7 years. After this babysitter scene, this is 7 years in the past. And when you see Pappy O'Daniel taking over the investigation...
Wait, it's 7 years into the future.
Yeah, when he's investigating, it's 7 years into the future. Or present time, I guess. The babysitter scene was 7 years ago. But at that time, Pappy O'Daniel is on the police force. He is an investigator on the police force. But later on, he becomes a private investigator working for himself, right?
All right.
But we learned that, the killer, who we don't know his name yet, but he was upstairs in the kids' room, covered in blood, and all we know about him is he's a merchant seaman, a British guy, and he'd only been in country for a week before he just sneaks into this house and paints himself red. So were there no other red flags in this guy's paperwork? I know immigration's a real bitch in 2021, but in 1979, surely has a knack for murdering children and using their blood as body wash would be on the background report, right?
You would think so.
I don't know.
So did
Step
he kill
one.
them kids?
He killed them, James. He fucking killed them. And
Uh-oh.
not only that, he painted himself with their blood. He was covered in it.
They're dead as a doornail.
Now, I did not see that part. Where did you see that at?
That comes up
It was in
later
the
as they
movie.
talk about. I know this movie confused the hell out of you, James, because of the jump in time, and there are no werewolves in it. So, that's going to keep, James kind of out of it. If there's no werewolf in a movie, he's not with it. In fact, I could tell James that Titanic had a werewolf in it, and he would watch it tomorrow. Guaranteed. Dedication. But
That is true.
So what happens is they explain the issue. That's kind of my issue. We don't see it happening. We don't see any altercation, but I guess that's the beauty in painting the horror of it. You have to use your imagination. So yeah, once Jill opens the door though, this feels like a very different movie. Like, of course we jump, 7 years to learn that, the responding detective, Pappy O'Daniel, he's now gone into business for himself, like they said, and that Kurt Duncan, who we now know by his name, but is the man who terrorized Jill, the babysitter, and brutally murdered the kids she refused to check on, but he has now escaped from the institution and is at large. And that, James, is where Pappy O'Daniel comes in.
So I know, Billy, that you were kind of talking about, how this man swan dove into a bucket full of kid blood. But the fact that we see so little gore in this movie or anything gruesome, I don't know if it just speaks to the time period that, the slashers of the 80s weren't really out and about yet. But what I thought was really interesting was Rick earlier said that it was obviously an R-rated movie, but in reading about it, it was actually originally rated PG. Now we're 5 years too early for the first PG-13 movie Red Dawn to come out, but it was PG. It made it through the screenings with the ratings board, and they updated it to R for it being scary. But looking back, I think this probably would have been a PG-13 rated movie.
So it wasn't the gore that came later in the movie with spoiler alert, but we're going to get there eventually. But there were like dead kids in the bed covered in blood. He was covered in blood. Didn't they show the kids later on? Would that not have gotten the R rating? Back then it took a lot for something to get an R rating.
Yeah, it took a lot.
I just don't think it would be an R rating today is what I mean. Like today, back then, sure, fine, whatever. There was no PG-13. But you think today it would be an R-rated movie? Really?
I mean, it's possible. You look at movies like this is going way in the future, but movies like The Conjuring, there's no blood in The Conjuring, barely any. And there's a lot of terror and scares, and it's rated R.
People get spooked by all that fucking possession stuff, though, I think, in that one.
Yeah, the religious people, they
take it pretty hard.
They do take it pretty hard.
But maybe, Casey, you're right. Maybe because of the actual sheer terror aspect of it, it went from PG to R. Who knows? Billy's right. It took a lot back then for a movie to get R.
And it wasn't until later that movies even started getting more creative with their kills. Mm-hmm. It took Friday the 13th getting into its campy years before they started getting creative. They would have these very straightforward kills, but that's what those movies became about. This isn't necessarily a slasher. It's not a slasher, even though there's one guy at large, and he's killing people with his bare hands. But yeah, I could see this not being an R-rated movie without the scene later on as he's having his flashback to killing the kids.
Yeah, it's pretty brief, though.
It's very brief, but it's very graphic. So I don't know. The jury's out on that probably. But I mean, we do finally meet the esteemed Kurt Duncan, who is the the killer in this movie. But he's in a bar and he's getting shut down by Ebenezer Scrooge's old lady, and I can't get over that bit of trivia. Rick, I don't know if you have anything on Colleen Dewhurst, but she's the actress here in the bar scene that's not giving Duncan any time whatsoever.
Oh no, I didn't realize that was the same person.
Yeah, so she was married to George C. Scott, who was Ebenezer Scrooge in the '84 version of A Christmas Carol.
He was in Changeling. He was in.
There you go. So I mean, you're fully aware, but I mean, she was married to him, whereas our star here, Carol Kane, was in Scrooged as one of the ghosts, like you said. And so how about those degrees of separation? Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge to Scrooged. I like that.
Right.
Nice little association.
It's a small world.
But I wouldn't want to paint it.
I think it's funny that what you're recognizing George C. Scott from are Christmas movies and not Patton.
Well, I've never been into military movies, but
I've only seen it like one time.
I think it's a more iconic role is all I'm saying.
It is, well, I don't know, is it? I mean, A Christmas Carol gets played every Christmas. How often does Patton get played?
There's a million Christmas carols. They all run together because it's the same show.
Damn.
I mean, Changeling's pretty iconic. It's a pretty,
Yeah.
Two of those too.
There's a garbage Angelina Jolie, yes.
I didn't realize she was in the second one.
Yeah, it's garbage, dude. Don't waste your time.
Damn. Tell him.
Yeah, Rick. Gosh, I'm going to have to see if you'll do a full review on that one. So either way, in this bar, he's trying to hit up Mrs. Scrooge, and she's not having it. So Bill, who we see in the background shooting pool by himself, he hears the yelling. He steps in, and this is where my fear of Duncan completely disappeared. Did he or did he not turn into quite a little bitch?
Maybe it's the girl in me that is fearful of weird men at bars. I still definitely had my red lights flashing, but he definitely got his ass handed to him.
Maybe what I mean is after what happens. I mean, Bill, who's played by Michael Champion, steps in and he gives Duncan a chance to apologize to Mrs. Scrooge, which he opts out and instead spits in Bill's face. So Bill kicks the living shit out of him. And spoiler alert, Duncan still follows her home and asks her out for coffee, which really speaks to the level of crazy this guy is. That's me. I'm gone from the time she doesn't accept my lighting her cigarette. Actually, I'm gone by the time I see her smoking a cigarette. But if that didn't do it, her lighting up after I'm offering a light, yeah.
Right. Screw that. Why would you waste your time? I mean,
right. But no, he's not with that. He is out to get that booty by any means necessary.
He's a man with a lot of time to waste.
Yeah, he's got a lot of time to waste. He's got nowhere to go. Apparently his job with the Merchant Marines is probably in jeopardy, after, the murders.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe. Hard to say.
Yeah, who knows? But, Bill, let's go back to Bill for a second. Where do I recognize him from? I remember him from a couple of movies, and one being Toy Soldiers. I don't know if that one's not, it was a really good movie, really underrated, but it's one that, probably doesn't get a lot of fanfare. Had a young Sean Astin, who was the emerging star with, what's his name? Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton was supposed to be like the next, the next Leo. Actually, Leo before Leo. But he just completely fell off. I don't know what happened to him. He may be dead. I don't know. But anyway, Bill was the only white guy in this, I think they were from Argentina, this terrorist group from Argentina that overtook this boys' school. It's like a private school. But Bill was one of them, the only white guy. That's the only place I know him from. That and one other movie, and I can't remember what it was. But the investigator and the police lieutenant, Superfly, they know what's up. So when Clifford, who is Pappy O'Daniel, tells Superfly about the job he's accepted, hunting down Duncan, Superfly immediately becomes really, really uneasy. And this is the one part of the movie that made me laugh. And it's for the dumbest reason ever. But Superfly gets kind of shook, and because he knows that Duncan's escaped and Duncan has murdered these children, he's at a party and he reaches down into a crib and pulls up the largest baby I've ever seen in my life. Like, this isn't like a toddler, okay? This is this is like just a really large infant. Like, it would wreck your hips if you were to give birth to this thing. If the baby says he's not eating those carrots, I guarantee he's not eating those fucking carrots. Are you guys remember the scene that I'm talking about?
In this movie?
Yeah.
I did not see that at all.
Oh my God! How could you not?
Yeah, I don't recall that.
You guys don't remember the scene where Pappy O'Daniel is in there talking to Superfly, and Superfly is kind of hammered because it's a party. He has to talk to him in private, so they go into another room, and he tells him that he's hunting down Duncan.
I remember that.
Because he's
I
escaped.
don't remember seeing a 12-year-old being treated like a baby.
No, this baby was like asleep in a crib, and when he picks him up and he holds him, I swear he was like the same height or he was the height from Superfly's belt up to his head, and this kid was like under a year old. I guarantee you, this was the hugest baby that's ever been born. You rewatch it and you tell me if I'm lying. But,
born at 172 weeks.
So Duncan just shows up to Mrs. Scrooge's apartment shortly after that, looking like Wile E. Coyote because he's gotten the shit kicked out of him by Bill from Toy Soldiers, and like he just walks in behind her. Did anybody else get totally thrown off by this?
Oh, I was uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, he just goes in there like he owns the place.
Yeah, this is one of the scenes that made me the most uncomfortable, and this is after seeing or knowing that two children were brutally murdered upstairs. But this is the one that made me uncomfortable. She goes to answer the phone, and he walks in just chilling, and she turns around like it's nothing, like it just happens every day.
Right.
And
she very casually says, "You can't be in here."
Yeah.
I'd be calling the cops repeatedly like Carol Kane in this scene, like just over and over and over again.
Well, if you got Sergeant Sacker, you wouldn't get any help, so...
That's true, I wouldn't.
Well, I thought that she knew him. I didn't even know that he was the killer. I just thought it was some guy.
James, did you watch this movie?
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I did.
So James is under the impression that like once the babysitter scene stops, we're looking at a whole new cast of people that are unrelated to the first scene.
No,
that's kind of true, though.
Sort of in a way, but
that's not so far off.
Sort of, but Pappy O'Daniel...
The first 20 minutes were, terror because of this phone call, and then they even said that the name of the movie was, what was it, Terra Phone Call of Death or something?
No.
The next hour of this drivel I sat through, I don't think I heard the phone ring once.
Completely devoid of phone calls for the middle hour of the movie.
They didn't run into a goddamn payphone in this movie after that.
Well, I guess we have one phone call where he openly invites himself into her home while she answers the phone, but I think that's the one and the only.
Oh yeah, that was a total dummy call. There was nobody even on that line.
No, that was her boyfriend saying he'd be over shortly.
Supposedly.
I think
this is the only scene I watched in this movie. Because I remember it.
Well, you see, I thought you missed something between the babysitting scene and the scene in the bar, which would have told you that the guy that escaped from the mental institution was Kurt Duncan, who is Mr. Bean meets Wile E. Coyote.
Well, I remember him talking to some woman at a psychiatric hospital, maybe.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know what the conversation was.
Well, they were talking about him escaping and putting him through all this shock therapy and how it didn't work and how they are pretty much, hands tied. They have to do things by the book and whatever, but he escaped. they played some tape for Pappy O'Daniel. Apparently Kurt Duncan is attacking some medical professional while they're trying to help him. He doesn't want to eat his food because it's terrible, so he strangles the bitch. And I mean that's how we get where we are. But you know, back to the apartment, there's so many weird behaviors in that apartment scene on top of him just showing up to her apartment. I mean, again, she leaves the door open when the phone rings. He just walks in right behind her, and she isn't the least bit startled. He plops down in this tiny chair that I don't even know that I could fit in, and he all but begs her to go out for coffee after getting his dick kicked into the dirt by Toy Soldier Guy. So, but just when you think he's worn her down, like, she does that thing that my mom used to do when I'd talk her into something. Hey, Mom, can I go over to James's house? No, we got to do this. Please. No, please. And fine. That lady gave the deep breath, and then it looked like she was going to say fine, but then she gives him the deep breath, and it's still a no. But I mean, she's totally fucking with him for fun. She knew what she was doing at the bar, right?
She doesn't give him a no initially. She says maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, she did give him a maybe tomorrow, but then he said
Which
tomorrow.
Was
and
too
she's
nice.
Totally back. Yeah, far too nice.
But also, if someone's standing in my home, I'd probably be a little nicer than I would in a bar.
Yeah, quite a bit nicer, but at the same time, it feels like she's playing this game with him. It feels like she is walking a very thin line, probably because she's married to Ebenezer Scrooge. She knows an asshole when she sees one. And maybe this guy's just a different kind of asshole. I don't know. But what flips me out completely is how wide open she leaves the door for the weirdo from the bar. But when a private investigator, Pappy O'Daniel, shows up the next day, which would normally be a very alarming event considering her eventful previous night, but Pappy O'Daniel has to threaten police action to get her to open up.
Well, she's probably scared after Homeboy took up residence in her living room.
Well, he shows her a photo of Crazy Duncan, tells her about the murders, asks if she'll work with him to catch the guy, and she's got to think about it. How is that something to think about? That, to me, knowing that this guy is a little too pushy, and he has made it very clear that he's going to come back and he wants to take her out to get that drink. How is it just something to think about?
I don't know. If someone came by my apartment, was that fucking weird, and then the next day I got a total lowdown about the fact that he killed 2 kids and was in a psych hospital, which, like, being in a psych hospital is one thing. Being in a psych hospital because you bathed in child blood is another thing. I would be really apprehensive about ever going out into the real world again.
Well, I don't know. I think that's how Rick got married. He murdered some kids, covered himself in blood, proposed marriage. She said yes this time, which, congrats. But, man, I question those, I question the thought process.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't been murdered myself yet, so.
Well, when Mrs. Scrooge finally comes back home, actually before that, let me back up a little bit. Pappy O'Daniel's there with Superfly again, and he tells Superfly that he wants to kill Wile E. Coyote, and somehow Superfly agrees, and he says, "Just make it look good." What the fuck? Just make it look good. Let's be honest. The only thing that Kurt has done since he murdered the children was escape from a psychiatric institute where he has already admitted, Pappy O'Daniel being he, pronouns, that he was being mistreated, right? But Pappy O'Daniel still wants to murder him with police, with the okay from the police, Superfly.
Which is just something to be beheld watching this movie and hearing him say, like, I want him dead, I want to kill him. Just like, oh, see, okay. And to back up even more, I had never seen this movie before we watched the podcast.
Same.
But I had seen the 2006 remake. That was actually my first horror movie in theaters with no parents, which was a very exciting evening, being 12. But saw the movie. When I watched this one, I expected it to be like that one because the 20-minute sequence that we get at the beginning of this movie with just her being the babysitter and the call coming inside the house, they stretched that shit into an, 90-minute feature film. So I didn't know that any of this middle section about hunting down the dude or anything like that was going to be in it at all. This was a total surprise to me.
Yeah, when I saw that we were going to do this, when it won the Twitter poll, I said, okay, cool, I'm going to see Carol Kane in the role of Camilla Bell. And that would have been great because, I mean, I'll go back and watch the Camilla Bell version just to see Camilla Bell. But I didn't realize that we were going to have the scene at the end. And once they opened the door and there stood Pappy O'Daniel, I'm saying, okay, cool. This is going to happen again like in 7 years. But there's a whole hour of a flick between the 7-year event with Carol Kane again. But we're going to get there. Now, when you talk about the, what year did you say it was? 2000 and what? 2006. Man, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But I guess it was. You say it was an elongated version of the opening part of this movie.
Yeah, so all you get in the 2006 version is the whole, and obviously it's stretched out pretty good, but you get the whole, basically it's the scene leading up to the call is coming from inside the house, and then at that point she's trying to escape and outrun the killer in this house that is so beautiful. It could be a whole HGTV setup. I remember seeing it and being like, I want to live in this house.
I just wonder if James saw that movie first and thought, oh yeah, this is going to be an easy movie to watch. And he just stopped watching after Pappy O'Daniel comes to the door. Well, movie's over, guys. That was painless.
Not entirely painless, though. Deafened from the THX noise.
I definitely had pains watching this movie.
I feel like me, Billy, and Rick are pretty on board with the fact that we more or less enjoyed this movie, and you were just outright hating on it.
Yeah.
It takes all kinds, James. It did take me a couple of watches, though, to really warm up to it. Because, again, I walked in thinking that this movie was going to be like the 2006 version. So once that scene was over and then it slowed down to a snail's pace, I was a little bit, I might have been yawning. And once I finished it, I said, nah, I got to do Rick a good service here. So I'm going to go ahead and rewatch it. I ended up watching it 3 times this week. And I've enjoyed it more every time I've watched it. And maybe because I missed details the first time around. Maybe it's because I realized Superfly was in it. I don't know. But I liked it more the third time than I did the first time I watched it.
Yeah, it's one of those films where if you sit down and watch it the first time, you're going to see things, but then, you know, pretty much any film you watch multiple times and you start noticing, okay, this happened and then this led to this and this led to this, or, oh, I didn't notice that before. And, yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely you're going to notice things the second time around, third time around, definitely for sure.
I don't know that I'm going to give it a fourth watch, but I mean, I may. I mean, I own it now. I bought it so we could, you know, view it and cover it today. But, you know, moving on though, when, you know, Pappy O'Daniel shows the photo of Crazy Duncan to Mrs. Scrooge, tells her about the murders. She's got to think about it. And then Pappy O'Daniel tells Superfly that he wants to kill him. Superfly agrees. We're good. Well, Mrs. Scrooge finally comes back home, you know, from a night on the town, probably at the same bar that she was where I didn't see Bill that time. But I got my second jump, my first being when Carol Kane opens the door in the first scene. But my second jump, I was not expecting it. But my heart definitely skipped a beat when she walks into her apartment and there's Duncan. But, you know who wasn't scared of shit? Pappy O'Daniel wasn't scared of shit. He busts through that door and he sees Duncan running easily a football field away, and this fucker takes off on foot. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, Pappy O'Daniel's a good 300 pounds. He's a big guy. There's no way he's catching a little scrawny Mr. Bean Wile E. Coyote. All right?
Yeah, he's a portly guy. He's a big dude.
Yeah, he's a big dude. And, but no, he takes off on foot. Now, he does kind of get away from him for a little bit. And that leads up to this next scene. And this one's a little more intense. Where we start running through the montage. You know, cutting back to him looking in the mirror, naked, going back to the straitjacket in the padded room, then, you know, screaming Mrs. Scrooge, and then back to the mirror, and then back to the bloody murder scene from the opening. You know, that to me was, I don't know what happened there. He didn't snap, but something happened. I can't quite put my finger on it. I mean, like I said, he didn't snap because he was back to the homeless shelter, you know, sleeping right after that, but there's some kind of change that happened here. I can't really call it out. But
maybe he had a psychotic break, and maybe, you know, he realized and then, you know, went on from there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, either way, no matter what he was feeling or what exactly happened, it gave us some good primary exposition for at least a little bit of a scene of graphic nature. Like, if I'm watching a horror movie, I'm not necessarily expecting, I don't know, like George Romero or anything like that, but I want to see a little bit, you know? I want
Yeah,
to.
up to this point, we hadn't seen that.
I mean, it gave a fair amount of suspense. Like, I was still scared, but we didn't see anything from the kids being killed. I was wondering if we were going to see anything at all until that sequence.
Well, that sequence is what gave me a shot in the arm watching this movie, because we had hit a lull, and then this happens, and it's like, okay, now he's starting to look crazy. Now I have a reason to fear him. But I don't think I was ever more on the edge of my seat than I was during the chase scene. All right, now they have their little face-off. Yeah, that was, to me, that was absolutely just, I mean, it was riveting. I mean, they had their face-off where Pappy O'Daniel's hiding that pick behind his back, like when my son would hide chocolate behind his back before dinner. Obviously something's back there. Kurt's not an idiot. But this is where my question arises. He wanted to kill Duncan. Superfly told him to do it, make it look good. So he goes with the lowest percentage success weapon you can use. Some kind of ice pick to throw at him.
Like
what? I didn't catch that, Casey.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if my internet's going out or what, but I said like launching a javelin.
Exactly like launching a javelin, and it stuck in the wall or in like a picture frame 2 inches from his head, so I guess it was close, but damn, you have a gun.
But my thing is, how did he even get that? Where did he get that ice pick from? Did he just have it in his pocket? He's like, oh, look here, I got this ice pick. Let me use it.
Oh, know he stole that from Mrs. Scrooge's apartment.
In the year of our Lord 1978, everyone had a whistle by the front door and an ice pick in their pocket.
I guess so.
Oh my God. Well, the run through the building and, Duncan, he loses Pappy, who's not even out of breath. First of all, he stops running. Duncan looks miserable. Pappy O'Daniel is just standing there like he's never taken a step. And that's where we return to Jill. This is where, business starts to pick up a little bit.
Fucking finally.
Yeah, right. So we're back to Jill, and let me tell you, Jill is looking all the way live. Am I wrong? Who's going to tell me I'm wrong?
James,
You're not
probably.
Wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Which one's Jill?
Jill is the main character from the first scene, the babysitter.
She's the babysitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, we returned to her. She's now got 2 children of her own. She and her husband.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, okay. Well,
and
what we know.
Too, but we're talking about this movie, so. And I thought I dreamed that Pappy O'Daniel launched that ice pick like a Scud-seeking missile or something.
Well, we get back to Jill though, and she's got her own kids, and she and her husband are planning the night out, and they're leaving a babysitter with their 2 children.
They're going to that dinner because he got that big promotion.
He got the big promotion. So, I mean, here we are. They're going out to dinner. They leave a babysitter with the 2 kids. And that is where the ultimate gut-wrenching thoughts are, like, in my head at this point. Like, is Wile E. Coyote going to try and murder these kids too, for not getting Jill back in the day? And again, Jill looking like the hammer of the gods, with that hair. Jesus. Anyway, so I forgot this movie was, all about stalky murder stuff when I saw her. Whatever. But her husband is a bit of a dork, but I guess that's the L we've got to take. But Jill gets a phone call at the restaurant. So they don't waste any time with this either. There's no build-up whatsoever to this. I guess the build-up has been in this lull in the middle of the movie. So she gets a phone call at the restaurant where presumably Duncan asked her the questions he asked her so many years ago. Have you checked on the children? Again, gut-wrenching.
Total meltdown.
Yeah. I mean, cause here they are, having this dinner. He's telling her, he doesn't tell her. He whispers his salary, that he got a company car, and she's like, awesome. And the guy comes over and says, hey, miss, you got a phone call. Okay, take the phone call. Well, she's just thinking, hey, the babysitter's calling saying, hey, checking in on you guys. How's dinner? I put them to bed, whatever. Total 360. I mean, as many times as I've seen this, I'm still like, damn.
At least a 180. But.
Yeah.
But okay, so she gets the question. The husband asks the babysitter to check on the kids. She's screaming out bloody murder. To which Jill screams no. So my suspicions are confirmed at this point. I mean, she's really got an issue with checking on kids. To the point where she doesn't want others doing it either. But, it turns out the kids are all right, So later that night, the police, they're watching the place. Jill and the fro, they're turning in for the night. Jill finds her kid holding some kind of sucker or candy or something in bed.
Yeah, it was candy because she goes in there and she says, "Where'd you get this candy?" And the kid's like half asleep and he's like, "Oh, I don't know." Right. And she's like, "Where'd you get this candy?"
Right.
It looked like a popsicle. I know it was candy. They said it was candy. It looked like a popsicle. And this kid is like, to me, in my eyes, falling asleep eating a popsicle in bed, which just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
What are those big caramel candies? Sugar babies? Sugar daddies?
Disgusting.
They are very disgusting. But 1979, you get anything you can.
Cow tail.
What?
A cow tail.
A cow tail?
Caramel and marshmallow mixed together.
That's not what that is.
They're about a foot long.
I don't think that's what this kid was holding.
Is it a Tross and Chew?
That's a cow tail.
Well, I'm going to take your word for it, James, because, I'm a hillbilly, but I don't dare question your hillbilly knowledge. I wouldn't think of it. But you know what? Again, we hear it, James. We hear the THX music, and that means shit's about to go down. The phones are dead. There's some kind of groaning or moaning, and Duncan's talking. We can hear him. We don't know where he is, and... Tell him, Casey, I can't say it.
You mean what happens at the very end?
Yes.
You gotta back up because, they're going to bed. She's crying. Her husband says, "Hey, I'm here for you. I've got you. We're gonna get through this." He gets out a shotgun. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna put it right here. It's gonna be next to me all night." And then...
Okay, yeah, and then I immediately pissed myself because they're in bed. She hears his voice. We see a closet that's precariously cracked. We hear his voice coming from the direction of the closet. Her husband, who is purportedly by his own volition a light sleeper, is not waking up, not moving, not nothing. That man is dead asleep, or so we think. She goes to rustle him awake, and it flips over, and it's the fucking murderer. I thought I was going to die. I scream again. My skeleton jumps out of my skin and runs straight out the front door. Horrifying.
But it got me 3 times. It pulled a hat trick on me. The answering of the first door, the Mrs. Scrooge in her apartment, and this scene, turning over in bed and seeing that it's Kurt Duncan, right. And he's in bed with our beloved Jill, still looking like a hammer, and he's going to kill her.
I thought you meant Kurt was looking like a hammer. I was like, I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well, he looks like hammered shit is what he looks like at this point. Because
there we go.
He has been through the ringer, and not his own fault in some cases, but in others, most definitely. But Pappy O'Daniel runs in, saves the day, puts a couple of rounds into Duncan, kills him, thusly saving the goddess that is Carol Kane from sure demise. And then, of course, they check on the fro, the husband, who's seemingly dead, falls out of the closet. Caroline looks at him, and, sweet Caroline looks at him. He groans, and then she cries. So it's like, was she low-key wanting him to be dead? She didn't cry when he looked dead. She started crying when he started moaning. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
I wouldn't have time to have any kind of thoughts for at least
you be in so much shock.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. This movie, to me, set a lot of examples for movies to come. Not just the remake. When I think about, contemporary movies, I guess movies that made my teenage years. Casey, I know you probably want to say something about this. A lot of similarities between this and the opening movie of the opening scene of one of your favorite movies, right?
Scream. I love Scream. So yes, to me, looking at Wes Craven's Scream, which came out in, if I'm thinking correctly, 96 or 97, you see Drew Barrymore as Cece, my name, and she gets a call at her house, or she's not a babysitter, which is kind of the breaking situation. Gets the call, and it's just someone trying to talk her up. It's not even being initially scary. It's just someone talking to her, and she seems to be having a good time. He's asking her favorite scary movie. She's telling him her favorite scary movie, and then it takes a twist. So it is definitely reminiscent of the opening of this movie, and then of course the closing of this movie where we get the call again, have you check the children. But no, the similarities watching this, because I haven't seen the remakes since middle school, watching this and then having seen Scream, I don't know, probably a month ago for the millionth time, it's definitely a fun comparison between the two.
I would definitely add on to what she said, and also this movie, it spawned a lot of other movies in vein like that. 1980, the next year, He Knows You're Alone came out. Tom Hanks' very first film. It was a killer following somebody trying to get them. 1981, there was Happy Birthday to Me. Same premise, a killer, people are alone. So it really kind of spawned, after that, kind of spawned a lot of those type of movies, like Casey's saying, hey, I'm alone, here's this killer, and, he's out to get these people.
Well, and looking at the theme of, like, it being specifically a babysitter, when I looked into it more, and I remember when I was going to see this movie, my dad saying that I was going to see some piece of shit remake of a movie that was a piece of shit in the 70s. And he was like, it's based on real life, which at the time had me a little creeped out. And when I looked into that now, it kind of is. It's an urban legend, kind of, as far as the calling over and over again, have you check the children, tracing the phone call, that stuff. But looking into it, there is a case that draws some similarity for a 13-year-old babysitter named Janet Kreisman. She was watching a three-year-old kid, and at 10:30, the police get a phone call with her saying, come quick, but the call dropped. She was found at 1:30 in the morning, violently murdered, and it's still to this day unsolved. So there's at least a little bit of, background to it, if not truth.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. That was in the documentary I have called Killer Legends. It talks about urban legends and urban myths, and I think it was her, I'm not sure. One of them was strangled by a phone cord. The killer got in the window, strangled by a phone cord. They have no idea, and then literally 3 blocks over, there was another babysitter killed. Still don't know to this day who did it, but yeah, that's awesome you brought that up.
Well, this movie is, or at least the opening scene and the full 2006 version, is based on an urban legend, I guess aptly named The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs.
Yep.
You got, a teenage girl babysitting, kids are in bed, she gets phone calls, the caller tells her something along the lines of check on the kids, or just something to make the story different each time. He gets dismissed, things get progressively worse, and then we see what happened. But this is a very popular, I guess, outline for storytelling. It's classic, and it's classic for a reason, because it is fantastic. It's great at building suspense. This one did it for me, so I guess we should give some final thoughts on this movie, and then we'll announce what we're going to do next week. So I myself, very happy to see anything that Carol Kane is going to be in. She's always been a really delightful actress and really fun. So seeing her in something a little darker, just, I guess it does it for me. And then seeing Pappy O'Daniel, Charles Durning, I hadn't seen a lot of anything that he had done. The majority of his work, I guess, his more serious work, was in the 80s, doing, I guess, cop TV shows, and not so much on sitcoms, but he had a lot of recurring parts on various TV shows. Ones that I saw, Simon and Simon, things like that. But I give this movie a solid 7, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Good for a rewatch if you want to not miss something. Third time was a little bit much for me, but hey, I rewatched it, so replay value is up. So Rick should give some final thoughts, and we'll keep it going.
I would definitely echo the sentiments. I would definitely give it probably a 7, 7.5. It's one of those films that it's really not horror if you really think about it and boil it down in all the aspects. It's really more of a thriller and suspense, which, hey, that's awesome too. Horror is a broad genre. But I think it's really cool. When I saw it the first time ever, I was like, hey, that's the lady from The Princess Bride. Hey, that's the lady from Scrooge. And I had no idea that she was in something like that. Because I associate her, like you said, with something happy, something more happy-go-lucky. I remember her at Addams Family Values, and I was like, whoa, she's in this. So, it really shows that, a lot of actors and actresses, they can definitely change their repertoire and do something, you weren't expecting them to be in, and then you saw it and you're like, man, that was a pretty good film.
Well, in reality, the original work was this, and then the repertoire was changed to more lighthearted stuff. So it's funny how that happens, because you see actors like Robert De Niro. He's now doing lighthearted movies. Bad Grandpa, Meet the Fockers, meet whatever. But things change over time. But something that remains the same is seeing new faces in horror flicks never gets old. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it. Casey, got any final thoughts on this one?
So when I look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, because I'm always curious to see where my feelings rank with both critics and audiences, I thought it was a solid 6. My ADHD was going a little crazy during the middle segment of trying to hunt down the killer, but I had a lot of fun at the very beginning and the very end. So I would say a 6, but the Rotten Tomatoes critic score is a 41% and the audience score is a 49%. So just a little bit different, I think, than where we were feeling. Well, I don't know. James is yet to speak, so I'll hold off.
Yeah, one of my favorite football coaches of all times once said that if you have a good entrance and you have a good exit, they'll forgive you for what's in the middle. So this started off strong. It ended strong. The middle was a little low, but I'm judging it based off the start and the end, and it was solid for me. So, James, let's get your final thoughts on it, and we will kick this thing off for next week.
It's a hard 3 for me, Bill.
Damn.
I couldn't figure out what was going on in the beginning, in the middle, and the end.
Wow.
But if you want a good psychological thriller, you might want to check this one out.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, right? Maybe a second view would do it for you. But, yeah, I think Rick did a good job on getting to something different, something that's not so obvious. You think, horror, you think slashers, and people automatically want to jump to the obvious guys, Leatherface, Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy, Chucky. But this one was, I didn't expect it. It was a pleasant surprise, and I don't feel like the 3 times that I saw it were, time ill spent. So I guess we can wrap it up from there. So, Casey, since your movie won the Twitter poll, why don't you go ahead and announce what we're going to watch and why you chose it?
Oh, I am delighted that my movie won the Twitter poll. I won't say that I reached out to friends and family and asked them to vote for it. I wouldn't say that at all. But I will say that what we're going to watch is The Descent, which is I would say it's an adventure kind of horror movie about a group of women who go spelunking or cave exploring. Then absolutely spelunking. So it's that, and we're going to do a deep dive, both literally and figuratively, with these women to see what they find.
Well, there you have it, and that's going to do it for our first episode of Slashers and Screamers. We hope you'll come back for more. We appreciate you listening. So for James, Rick, and Casey, I am Billy. This was Slashers and Screamers, and we will catch you in the post-credit gag reel.